So I come from an Orthodox background, although I have laxed slightly over the years, but I still go to the synagogue with my children, and they go to Sunday school, and I still keep kosher. I've never eaten pork or ham, and my children aren't even allowed to keep their money in a piggy bank.
And this is the synagogue he attended as a boy. The membership here has declined, which has resulted in the building being sold to a thriving evangelical church.
Well, this whole place was the synagogue when I was younger, and it would be absolutely packed, especially on the Jewish festivals. You could move here. It was standing room only. Well, this has completely changed, and this is where the women would sit here, and the men sat in front there, and my mum and my grandmothers and my auntie would sit here, and then my dad in the front. My grandfather sat in the front also, and over there is where myself and all my contemporaries sat, trying to vie for space.
Bennett and all the other children studied the Old Testament here.
I can read Hebrew but don't really understand what I'm saying. Still, I read it well.
And inside this new church property, the Swansea Synagogue still remains, but now in a smaller room, rented from their new owners. His dad, Charles, and Mum Joyce are here.
Hello.
Along with family friend Norma. Behind this curtain is the synagogue's holy ark. Each of these ornate scrolls make up the Torah. These are the books of Moses, the laws by which Jewish life is defined.
So which ones are from Port Talbot? Those two?
These two, the ones that they used to have little mirrors in there, we donated them here when our synagogue in Port Talbot had to close, unfortunately.
For generations, the Swansea Jews have lived in relative harmony with their neighbours. But in 2002, the congregation here was badly shaken when the synagogue was the target of an anti-Semitic attack.
Now this is what they did to the sacred scrolls. It was a terrible sight to see.
There were graffiti for Combat 18, Ku Klux Klan, and they really did damage, and I felt very sad.
But this wasn't the first time a Jewish community in Wales experienced a racially motivated attack.
I've come to Tredegar. There were riots here in 1911, which were called the anti-Jewish riots. So I want to find out whether or not that was the actual case.
150 years ago, this was one of the boom towns of the industrial valleys. Local historian Peter Morgan-Jones is an expert in the town's Jewish history.
I've heard a lot about you. Welcome to Tredegar.
Only good things. Thank you very much indeed.
It's an interesting little town, is this?
And how big was the Jewish community here?
About 150 people all told. And this was where the synagogue was.
It was small, but absolutely vital.
They lived all over the town, they lived in the community as it were, but they didn't become part of the community. If you can understand that Jews wearing their different costume, their different robes, long robes for example, wearing long beards, they appeared to this community, appeared hostile. They appeared alien, shall I say, not hostile.
In 1911, riots broke out across the valleys, in the Rhondda, Ebbw Vale, Cwm and here in Tredegar. A rail strike meant that coal could not be transported, and thousands of miners were laid off without pay. The Jewish press reported that 20 Jewish shops were ransacked and looted, and rioters sang Christian hymns as they wreaked havoc in the town. Some dismiss claims that it was a deliberate attack on Jews.
One account says that a group of young men singing came into this circle and marched across here to a shop that was just behind us and smashed the windows and started looting it. Right. Whether that's true or not, we don't know, but it possibly was.
But was it not true that the police informed Jewish residents the day before that there might be problems?
There were warnings. There were warnings about this.
But surely if there were warnings, that means that it was pre-planned to some extent.
It certainly warned Jews. Your shops are likely to be attacked if any trouble breaks out. It broke out in the Rhondda, it could break out here.
For the local unemployed, the only way to raise cash to buy food was a visit to the pawnbrokers, some being run by Jews.
They were well known, certainly some of the pawnbrokers, well known for being only too ready to retain goods which had been pawned when people had stopped paying their interest on the pawning.
Which is business, really.
Which is business.
And to an extent, I suppose, would have given grounds for some type of anti-Semitic feel. If you have Jewish people doing this, then obviously that's going to build up.
Yes, it would. Yes, of course it was. Anti-Semitism was here, but I always have maintained, that much of this would have taken place if the shops had been owned by Chinese.
I mean, it must have been horrible, you're serving customers one day, the people in the town who are coming up and buying your furniture and your clothing and everything, and then the next day you turn up at work and your shop has been vandalised by those same customers. That's awful.
Bennett's next stop is the town's library.
Now, these are some of the damage claims that went through the court.
Archivist Janet Khan has discovered documents about the victims of the riots.
We've got Cohen, which is my mum's maiden name, fair enough. So we've got Cohen, we've got Eastman, Marks, Rosenbaum. I mean, very traditional Jewish names. And again, tailor, draper, outfitter, jeweller, cabinet maker.
She's also found the Chief Constable's 1911 report citing Jewish business practices as a reason for the unrest.
What, that he thinks that the Jewish population here started it?
Yeah. His handwriting is not the best, I've got to be honest.
He wrote, "They establish themselves in business and acquire houses and property. They become landlords and they raise rents very high. And I am told, make their tenants deal at their shops."
I did warn you that the Chief Constable was very anti-Jewish in what he said.
Yeah, apparently so.
You'd never be allowed to get away with it today.
Yeah, you say that. I don't know if that's so certain.
Then, in a room packed with the objects that chart the town's history, there's a surprising find.
Let's put some lights on in here for you. There you are, look.
Oh, wow. Gosh.
How the gentleman got that, I don't know. I might be able to get it out to the cupboard for you.
Really?
It's all that remains of the Jews' presence here, and no one knows for sure if this holy book should indeed be kept in Tredegar.
Because when I saw it, I was scandalised. I didn't think we should have it.
Oh, isn't this incredible? 1865.
It is the Talmud, containing the laws governing Judaism and of scholarly discussion on the Old Testament. All that is known is that this book came from the house of the last Jew in Tredegar.
I don't think I've seen one this old before. What an incredible book. I think for the time being it's in the right place.
Well, that makes me feel a little easier.
Bennett leaves with copies of the documents about the Tredegar Jews for him to study further. As the Welsh Jewish community prospered in the industrial valleys, many of their children were growing up with different aspirations and accents to their forebears.
I've always had a strong identity of being both Jewish and Welsh. I've been interested in my family's history and generally the history of Jews in Wales. And I had no idea how many lived here, especially in these small communities. It's been fascinating, really. And just for a short while, I've stopped being a Jewish-Welsh comedian and I've become a Jewish-Welsh historian. But it's very funny, when I did research for this show, I contacted a lot of my friends from school on Facebook. I know a lot of them are here this evening, and I asked them what they remembered about me being the only Jewish child in school. A lot of them remembered the same thing. They all remembered that I played the part of Shylock, the Jewish moneylender, in the school play, which was lovely, although it was a bit odd as we were doing Peter Pan.